Tonight, we're gaming wrong with Sasquatch.
Casey Jones
going to reach Frisco.
Casey Jones,
But we'll all be dead.
Well, I say every day, I'm just getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
Lorenzo will give you the details.
A few moments later.
What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lied. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Yeah. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, thinking and not thinking. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is their trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mick. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
I have terminal brain cancer. You know what that's given me? Absolute clarity and nothing else.
Hey, you. What are you doing here? This ain't even a normal kind of thing. I doubt anybody will like it but me. So, there you go. I'm not even sure I'm going to like it. Basically, I'm going to attempt to do things like using an aircraft carrier as a ramming barge, a battleship to ram smaller ships. I'm going to try various methods of attacking the AI in ways that are not expected, but the AI generally just sinks them when I try this, so it's probably going to be a rather annoying road to hoe. So, on that point, I have some backup glitzies for y'all to be interested in. Although I have to admit, this first one's a bit curious. I can't figure out an actual source for it. I figured the channel made it, but it looks relatively professional in a weird kind of way, and I'm thinking they might take me down before I even get very far through it. This first review is the terrifying true story of Sam the Clown. And if you've never encountered the Sam the Clown story, he makes Ed Gein look like a cuddly puppy. Oh, cool. My battle has ended because I have died. This is what happens when you try to like charge into ships that have torpedoes. They generally just, torpedo you.
You have 10 minutes till showtime.
On a March evening in 1972, a man was walking alone along the wet sand of Compton Bay in the Isle of Wight. It was a cool, crisp evening, but he was enjoying the peace and serenity as he walked out further, due to the tide being low. He breathed in that cool air before noticing something even colder hitting his ankle. It was a wave. Not anything significant, just a little splash of water, saturating the lower part of his jeans and shoes. The man looked towards the sea and realized the tide must be turning. It was time for him to return to his car that he had parked just off the beach. But then another wave hit him, a little higher up his leg this time. Another quickly followed. He glanced out to sea and could see the water moving much quicker than it should. This was a walk he was fairly familiar with, and he was used to the changing tides, but instantly in his gut he felt that something wasn't right. It was when the next wave hit his knee that he started to panic. It was some sort of tidal surge. Something had started to push the water back to land, much quicker than usual. He turned to start racing back to the beach, and that was when he heard it. A low, droning sound coming from somewhere off out to sea, almost like a siren, slowed down. He quickly moved, but by now the water was already getting higher and higher around him, causing him to have to wade through the water. He was at risk of being cut off, the beach still some distance away. He could swim, but each wave that came crashing down around him was more powerful than the last. He wasn't confident that whatever had caused these waves wouldn't drown him once the full extent of the surge caught up with him, which would surely happen before he reached the beach. He realized just off to his left was a formation of rocks, high enough that he knew it normally poked comfortably out of the sea. The water was now high enough, and he began to swim like his life depended on it, which it very likely did. No one else was around. If he didn't reach the rocks in time, he wasn't sure how long it would take for anyone to even think about sending rescue. Sure enough, he reached the rocks and began to climb, slipping multiple times as his wet hands grasped the smooth rocks. But after some effort, he managed to pull himself to the top. He collapsed, breathing deeply and relieved that the ordeal was over. He glanced over the edge to see the waves crashing into the rocks below him. He quickly realized he had made the right call not to try and make it to the beach. The man sat up and glanced out over the darkened waters, wondering to himself what could have caused such a violent shift in the tides. A distant earthquake, maybe? But then he heard it again. That low, droning sound. He was sure of it. It sounded like it was coming from beneath the water. He looked carefully, and there, before his very eyes, something peculiar appeared. 2 yellow lights, clear as day, were shining up through the water. The waves were distorting them, but he said they looked like they were only just beneath the surface, and only about 40 foot away from where he was perched on the edge of this small cliff. The man later described the yellow lights as eyes, or more specifically, that they were peering up at me like the eyes of some horrible sea monster. They were only there for a few
Yeah,
minutes.
no, I was
before
trying to ram
slowly
a ship and it
disappearing
got
off
away
into the dark,
because it
murky
hates
depths
me,
below him.
mistress. It hates me.
The droning sound began to fade, vanishing off over the
Give me some
horizon.
fish in the water.
As the sound and lights went, so did the tide,
Yee.
leaving the man shaken, but able to get back to
but
his
it did
car
not
and
kill
drive
the
home.
battleship. That is unfortunate.
This was not a one-off occurrence for this man. The past couple of years he had been witnessing strange lights that almost seemed to be following him, but he didn't know how to tell anyone what he had been encountering without sounding mad. It would be 1 year later, when his daughter had her own even stranger experience, that the man would finally reveal his story. Welcome to the tape library, and have I got a wild one for you tonight? This is one of those cases I wanted to cover the second I started this channel, but it's just so out there that I was kind of nervous to try and put it together. Well, we're having a little celebration here at the Tape Library Archives, so I thought what better time. As of writing this episode, we have just hit 100,000 subscribers
They're doing really
over
good
on
work
YouTube.
over there too. I really
So I
like
just
a lot
wanted
of
to
their
say a
stuff.
massive
I check
thanks
it
to
out,
everyone
like,
who has watched
at
these
least once
videos.
a week.
To think
Make
about
sure
3
there's
months ago I was trying to
nothing new
cross the
that I
goal of
missed.
5,000 subscribers. So it really has been insane to see so many of you finding my videos and enjoying them so much. Throughout the month of March, we're going to be celebrating this growing community in a few ways. First, we have this episode, which a few of you have requested, but I'm also hoping to get 2 more episodes out. One will be what I think is the case that you have all requested more often than any other, and we'll also be doing a massive video of a whole bunch of brand new real-life paranormal encounters that you subscribers have sent me. That will be the next installment in our Scary Stories to Fall Asleep to series. And speaking of sleep, I'm super happy to announce the Tape Library has its first ever sponsor. I've been kind of reluctant to take on sponsors in the past, unless they are either something I would use myself, or that I think you guys would genuinely like. So I'm pleased that Manta Sleep got in touch. They make incredible quality sleep masks that can be easily adjusted to offer complete blackout of all light, meaning you can sleep anywhere. I've tried sleep masks in the past and never really got on with them, but these are so comfortable. What's more, they sent me their Bluetooth mask to try out, and it's fantastic. Like a lot of you, I love falling asleep listening to creepy stories and podcasts, and this mask means I can do that without disturbing anyone else. The speakers are razor thin, meaning it doesn't affect the comfort of the mask at all. So if you want to check them out, there is a link in the description. Listeners can get 10% off by using the code TAPE at checkout. Thanks once again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Okay, let's get into tonight's story. As I said, this case is a really peculiar one. While it could be chalked up to the fantasies of 2 children, there are just so many weird details about it that I think make it a fascinating case, and maybe the best example of high strangeness I think we've covered since the Sarichna Hole episode. So get yourself a warm drink, dim the lights,
another
and get
real good
comfortable. It's time for the chillingly weird tale of Sam, the Sandown Clown. Faye, a young 7-year-old girl, was playing next to Lake Common in the seaside town of Sandown on the Isle of Wight. Spring was fully in the air on this warm May afternoon, as she was playing a game of hide and seek with a young boy around the same age. The afternoon was getting long,
1, 2,
and at about
3,
4 p.m. the
4,
pair
it's a whole
decided it
bunch
was
of them,
time
dude. It seems like
to
you
end
should
their
have gone
game
to an
and think
X
about
at
heading
some
home
point.
for food.
But sure, if it smells like fish,
Before they
what a
could,
dish.
however, something grabbed
Yee
their
yee.
attention. It was a
Well, she
sound,
got a cat smelling real foul.
a sort of siren of some kind. A low wailing, almost like an ambulance siren, somewhere off in the
Where's my
distance,
battleship at?
but not too far. The 2 children
Oh,
listened
I'm running
carefully,
away from it.
and with a
It's probably
certain
not
level
best.
of childlike confidence, established that the sound could only be coming from 1 or 2 fields over. They had time, so why not
Maybe
investigate
don't
what
eat
it
it.
was? The area they were playing in backed
Mm.
onto a golf course,
Suggestions.
so they moved through the
Use
perimeter of the
protection.
course
I don't
towards
know.
the sound. Faye thought it was strange that none of the grown-ups playing their game seemed to be interested in the sound at all, but they still continued on. They reached the edge of the club and moved through a hedge into the swampy marshlands that surrounded the area, just opposite Sandown Airport, a small and rarely used airport at the time. They were close now. The sound was so loud, but they looked out across the marshland and couldn't see anything that could be causing the noise. Then it just suddenly stopped. An eerie silence was cast across the field. They stepped out a little
I'd
further
take
into
it
the
swimming
marshland,
first.
confused by the
I
sudden
find that,
disappearance of the sound. They
If you
began
meet
to
a chick,
approach a
take
small
her to a
wooden
hot tub
footbridge
right out
that
the
would
gate.
take them across one of the
You
brooks.
get to find out whether she's real
But
or
as they
fake.
began to cross,
Because
Faye
all of
saw
her cookie
something
batter will melt.
that made her freeze. There was a hand gripping the bridge from underneath, wearing a blue glove with only 3 fingers. From underneath the bridge, the 2 children witnessed a strange figure step out from the shadows beneath them. The person kept their back to the children. They didn't get a good look at its face, but they could instantly tell, even in its half-hunched over stumbling movements, that whoever was in the water was tall. He was also dressed strangely. The tall man appeared to be carrying some sort of book that he dropped into the water as he stumbled out from underneath the bridge. He struggled to pick the book back up, splashing about as he did so, almost as if he wasn't fully in control of his hands, before moving along the brook in a strange hopping motion, with his knees raised high as he moved. They watched as he moved towards a weird-looking metallic hut that had no windows, before he opened the door and disappeared inside. The entire incident was strange enough that the 2 children decided they should tell a grown-up, and decided to walk back the way they came. As they had entered the field, they had spotted 2 men fixing a fence post, so decided to head back to where they were. They had made it about 50 feet away from the bridge when they heard a noise behind them. They turned and saw the figure, standing not too far behind, staring directly at them. Only this time, he appeared to be carrying something new. He appeared to be holding what looked like a black microphone, with a white wire dangling.
He just wanted an interview, that's all.
He didn't move.
Dressed up as a clown, running
The
around in
children
public
didn't
at
move.
night with
And
shiny objects
suddenly,
in his hand.
the
That's
wailing
sure to work
siren
out well.
kicked back in again.
What a gimmick.
Only this time it was so loud it hurt the children's ears.
10 years later,
boy,
he had a YouTube channel.
terrified,
He'd be great.
began to run. But just as quickly as it started, the noise stopped, and the
You're the
figure
next PewDiePie.
raised the microphone-looking object to his mouth. Both children claimed that despite the figure being quite far away, they could hear his words as clear as day. He said, "Hello? Are you still there?" A strangely worded question, being that the children were very much in his line of sight, but something about the figure's tone of voice instantly calmed both children, and they felt comfortable enough suddenly to approach the figure instead of continuing to run. It was as
That's
they
crazy.
got closer that they got
You don't
a good
walk up to a
look
clown
at
at night
exactly
in the dark. That's
he
freaking
was.
nuts. Those children
The
should
following
have a very
description is
stiff talking
quoted
to.
from a UFO
There's
publication
no
that
explanation
first
for that.
investigated the story. Why it was a UFO publication, we will get into later. Faye described the man as follows. He was nearly 7 feet tall and had no neck, for his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. He wore a yellow pointed hat, which interlocked with the red collar of a green tunic. A round black knob was affixed to the top of his hat, and wooden antennae were attached either side. The face had triangular markings for eyes, a brown square of a nose, and motionless yellow lips. Other round markings were on his paper white cheeks, and a fringe of red hair fell onto his forehead. Wooden slats protruded from his sleeves, and from below his white trousers. He had 3 fingers in his blue gloves, and had bare white feet, that also only had 3 toes. Despite having
3
spoken
toes?
to the children just moments
That's
ago through his
wild.
microphone, his
Hello,
next
Swiss
attempt at
Miss. Welcome in,
communication
girl.
came through
Good to see you.
writing. He pulled out a notebook
There's
and
an
began
irony here.
scribbling away,
I have 10 people in
then
chat over
presented the book
YouTube,
to
and
the
the
children,
only people talking is
holding his
Scrappy
finger up
Dreams
to
and
each
Louis
word,
the V.
and gesturing
1, 2,
them
3,
to read
4,
it
5,
aloud,
7, 9,
as
I
he
don't know,
did.
a bunch of them.
Faye did as he wanted, and read out loud, "Hello, and I am All Colours Sam." The reason he pointed to the words, interestingly, was
From
because they were
beyond
not
the
laid out in a
grave.
simple sentence. Instead, they were written in different places around the page. The children glanced around and could see, not far from where they were stood, the two workmen repairing the fence post. But neither of them seemed to react to the strange events that were taking place, as though they couldn't see Sam, or possibly even the children for that matter. The boy was still nervous to be around this person that they now would refer to as Sam, but Faye on the
What's
other
up,
hand
cat
didn't.
attack? Welcome
She seemed
in.
to think he was
Good to
friendly.
see you with your little blue head.
And gradually
screaming.
her
What is that
confidence
anyway?
calmed
Is that
the
a
boy
fish?
down. They crept closer still to
Can't
Sam,
really tell what that is. It's so
who then revealed he in fact did have the ability to talk, without the aid of his microphone device. Although the children describe his speech as odd. His lips wouldn't move, and his voice was muffled, as though his mouth wasn't fully opening, or it was obstructed in some way.
By the
Sam
mask
began
he
to
was
ask
wearing?
the children
I mean,
questions about
That
themselves,
seems legit.
and then asked them to ask questions back. Their first was about his peculiar
Is that a
clothing.
chatty face?
His
Okay.
clothes were colourful, but
Cool.
ripped and torn. Sam stated that it was
I've always
his only
wondered,
set
I
of
see
clothes
those
that he
things
had,
pop up. And
so he had to wear them
I've
every
tried
day.
to go looking for them.
They
But I look
asked,
and I'm like, oh, it's
due to
whatever it
his
says it
strange
is.
physical
And I move on and
appearance,
I don't think about it again.
if he
for
was a
year
man.
until I see it pop up.
To this,
and I'm
Sam
like,
laughed a
"What the
little
hell
to
is that?"
himself,
Chatty face.
before
Gotcha.
replying, "No." The pair
Right?
then asked
I
him
understand, Swiss Smith. I don't
if
blame
he was a
you neither.
ghost,
Not one little
which
bit.
got an even more cryptic response of, "Well, not really, but I am, in an odd sort of way." When the children pressed further to ask what he was, Sam simply replied that the children knew
I
what
just
he
figured
was.
that such an interesting
Despite
format
introducing
deserves
himself as
investigation.
He then claimed that he had no real name. Creepily, he told the children he
Wait a
wasn't
second.
alone.
I just,
That there were others like him,
I just had this thought of that.
even drawing a picture of what one of his companions looked like.
Our brother, where art thou? The old black man on the hand truck thing. I have no name. What?
Back in the notebook. But
That'd be
Sam
funny.
continued to paint himself
was the
as a
Sandown
harmless
Clown.
figure
That's
of
funny.
sorts to the children.
Very funny.
He claimed he
Very
was
funny.
scared of people, scared that they would hurt him. He said that if he were to be attacked,
Am I
he
rated
wouldn't
as a
fight back.
battleship in this one? No.
So instead, he just kept
No,
away
okay.
from people. And that was when Sam asked the children to come back to his hut with them.
Ugh, that's no. Don't do
The
this.
children followed Sam through a small
Why?
flat in the side
Why
of his
would they do
metallic
that?
hut
Why?
that all three were
Dude,
forced to crawl through.
Very stiff.
Once
talking to
inside,
for
they
these
saw
children.
it was actually split into 2 floors, the lower of which was high enough that it allowed Sam to stand
Well,
up fully once through the hatch.
I tell you the truth.
As he did so, he
I tried to
removed
put
his
the
hat,
chat, I put
revealing a
I
pair
guess
of
the
rounded
background is
white
moving.
ears and a thinning head of brown hair.
Would a
They
black
described the
background be better?
downstairs as being covered in blue and green wallpaper and covered with dials. The furniture inside was all wooden, and there was a small electric heater in the corner of the room. The second floor wasn't so spacious and had a cold metallic look to it, much like the outside had. Sam told the children
I'm
that he didn't just
screwed.
stay on the island. He often ventured to the mainland to collect berries from a second camp that he had there. He claimed that he lived entirely on these berries. He also said he could drink water from the brooks around his home, but only after he had cleaned it. Sam had a peculiar way of eating, which he demonstrated to the children. Sam picked up a berry and pushed it towards one of his ears. Before thrusting his head forward, the berry vanished, before reappearing moments later in his triangular eye. He then thrust his head forward again, and the berry appeared in his mouth, which he then ate. The trio continued to talk in Sam's strange home for about half an hour more, before the children said their goodbyes and exited through the hatch that they came through. What they discussed or did in that half an hour period, we don't know. They moved away, glancing back at Sam's hut. He had not followed them. Something about stepping away from Sam's home seemed to bring the fear back into the children, and they ran back as quickly as they could to where they had come from. The golf course now appeared to be mostly empty. but once they reached the lake they had been playing at earlier,
All right, Diamond
they
Jim, calm
excitedly
down.
recalled their story to the first grown-ups they saw. 2 men who simply laughed at the children, told them to stop messing around and head off home. The mockery they received clearly made the children cautious.
I'm
to tell
hoping I'll be
anyone
able to
else.
get me a
Even for a 7-year-old, they could
what's
see
it
how
called?
unbelievably strange the whole thing was.
Revenge of the
And
Kraken.
neither Faye nor her friend told
I think
anyone
that's what it's
else.
called.
That was until 3 weeks later, however. On the 2nd of June 1973, Faye's father, who has remained nameless, was growing concerned about his daughter. The past few weeks she had been quieter than usual, as though something was playing on her mind. She had simply
Hello,
dismissed
Michelle.
it any time he had
How are
tried
you
to
doing?
inquire. But for some reason on this day,
Welcome to Gaming
she
Wrong with
decided to confide in
Sasquatch.
her father what had happened. She sat there and retold the story of that strange afternoon several weeks earlier. Initially, he too laughed it off and told her to stop making things up. This response seemed to upset Faye greatly. Another adult wasn't believing her. But as they went back through the story, something about it got under Faye's father's skin. There was such a bizarre level of detail included that just seemed so uncharacteristically imaginative for his daughter. She also seemed to be deeply troubled recounting the experiences, as though it had been something that had genuinely been playing on her mind for a while. The father, who in all reports is referred to as Mr. Y, was clearly convinced enough by his daughter's story that he believed something had happened, but he didn't believe her version of events. So his first step was to go and visit the boy she had been playing with that day. Interestingly, the boy was much more hesitant to talk about what had happened. But sure enough, he at least confirmed to Mr. Y that he had met a strange man named Sam in the field that day, and backed up most of Faye's version of the events. Mr. Y then headed to the brook, where they claimed they saw Sam, but could find no evidence of any metallic hut being there. Mr. Y couldn't shake Faye's story. He had her retell it multiple
kinda
times,
wild.
and he wrote up a detailed document of all the events that both her and the boy recounted. He then got in touch with a UFO investigator at the organisation Prehistoric, who looked into the case and even reported the events in a detailed manner in one of their journals. He requested that both his identity and that of the children be kept secret. He wasn't looking to get any attention for this story. He simply wanted someone to look into it, to tell him there was something to it, to tell him he simply wasn't going mad. But why had Mr. Y decided to contact UFO investigators for this strange incident? Well, to answer that, we have to go back 3 years, to the start of Mr. Y's own encounters. Tuesday the 20th of October, 1970. Mr. Y was alone, driving to a friend's house on this dark autumn evening. He was passing through the village of Brading. The roads were quiet. People were already home from work on this chilly night. As he turned out of the village, he noticed something in the sky. A sort of aircraft, very large in the sky just to his right over some fields. The craft was strange enough for Mr. Y to pull his car to the side of the road to try and figure out
Another
what he
one
was
bites the
seeing.
dust.
He watched
What's up,
as the
bud?
large craft hovered.
Sure, I got
7
shaking,
individual large lights glowed underneath it, each a clearly defined sphere that resembled a glowing red cherry, mixed with
Yeet.
turquoise and white lights. Curiously, despite being close, the object made no sound. It just hovered there, silently. When Mr. Y turned on his engine and began to slowly move down the road, the craft moved with him, hovering alongside, keeping pace with his car. It followed him further down the road before suddenly cutting across the road some 300 feet behind his car. Mr. Y stopped his car once again and watched the object hover over some nearby fields. It seemed smaller somehow now, but this might have just been
That's
down
true,
to the
Mr.
fact that
Mojo
only 4
Rising.
of the 7 lights now appeared to be lit up. He stepped out of his car and attempted to shine his torch towards the object, but it was too far over the fields to really illuminate. He did continue to watch as it moved back and forth through the sky, as though it didn't seem to know what to do. After some time watching, Mr. Y got back into his car and continued on to his friend's house. Hauntingly, the entire way there, he could see the red lights in his rearview mirror,
Give me the money, okay?
although they were visibly further away from him.
Anna's so
appeared that they
upset
were
on
following
that.
him. He entered his friend's house and he told them the strange encounter he had had that evening. After some time, the pair stepped outside, and sure enough, both men saw the red lights, not too far off in the distance, moving back and forth, disappearing into the tree lines for short periods of time, before seemingly peeking back out. Mr. Y drove towards his home, and while the lights did appear to follow for a short while again,
I think Tim
they
Curry
soon
was
vanished
messing around in the
completely from
past
sight.
as Pennywise
Across the span of
somewhere
nearly
in
2
Ireland,
years,
Scotland.
Mr. Y
Isle
would
of Wight,
spot
where's that?
singular red lights in the night sky when he was out and about on multiple occasions. He wouldn't see them for months at a time, and then suddenly he would be driving and notice the red dot. A strange occurrence.
I'm not going to
But
apologize,
not one
Jeffrey.
that truly
I can't
frightened
do it.
him until one evening,
It's you. It's
in
all
Compton
you,
Bay,
baby. I can't do it without you.
the place our story
What you want me to do
started,
about it?
and where Mr. Y claimed he was forced to climb a rock formation to avoid what he was
I don't believe
convinced
I ever said gaming
was
brought
some
in the
sort of
views.
underwater
I
craft.
said that there's an extra
causing a
space
tidal
over there for
surge,
some bright flashes.
creepy
and
yellow
I think it
lights
should
in the
probably
sea.
have a game on it.
Watching him,
I think that's what I said.
much like the red lights in the sky had been in the previous years. While these incidents had made Mr. Y fascinated with the subject of UFOs, it wasn't a topic he would bring up with his family. Again, how do you explain that you are convinced you have been followed by glowing lights on multiple occasions without looking insane? He had definitely never told Faye about his experiences, nor discussed it with her around. But it was his interest in UFO cases that had developed over the years he had his experiences that made him look at what happened to Faye from a different viewpoint. He saw similarities between her encounters and that of others who have reported alien abductions, specifically when it came to those two workmen who seemingly could not see Sam. Mr. Y is quoted as saying, "I get the impression that Faye was somehow taken into a bubble of alien reality, created by this strange personage. He told them he had just made the hut. Also, Faye told me that while they were talking to this ghost, 2 workmen nearby were repairing a post. They paid no attention to the weird charade, as though they could not see it." The story seems to me so wildly strange, and the 2 children never suggested that Sam was some sort of alien. They were convinced he was a ghost, or something that at least...
No, he wasn't no alien.
Wasn't
He was
fully there.
dead. Sam dead.
But there is something that maybe does add some credence
What's up,
to
Toe
Mr.
for
Y's
Life
theory.
Chronicles? Welcome in, bud.
Just a few years later, in a case we may very well get into in a future episode of the Tape Library, there were numerous sightings across an area of Wales of apparent UFOs. One of the most famous of which is the story of Broadhaven School,
I
where a
hope
number of
you
children
enjoy
began
yourself.
claiming to their teachers
What's up, Cobalt?
that
Welcome
they
in,
had seen
bud.
a UFO
Good to see you.
in their school playing field. The head teacher, not believing them,
I think
separated
I'm going
the
to change
children
the
out
name to this to playing
and asked them
games
to draw what they had seen,
Because I don't guess I'm actually
expecting
doing
the
it
visual
wrong,
representations to differ
given
wildly,
the circumstances.
But-
you know,
and they didn't.
but it's not great.
All the pupils drew a
Not
pretty
at all.
similar image of what they had seen. Numerous pupils claimed to have seen a figure next to the craft, which was described as wearing a green and silver outfit, not too dissimilar from the costume Sam was said to have worn. Chillingly, some pictures also depict the figure wearing a pointed hat, much like Sam wore.
I don't know.
So
Are
what
those
can we take
beta
from
guys
this?
or chicks? I can't tell.
The Sandown
not by
Clown
the information
story is
you've
often
given me,
described as
Mojo
one of the
Riser.
strangest UFO
Nothing I can do
stories of
with
all
that one.
time, and many peculiar details about it have kept the story tickling people's brains for decades now. On paper, I initially dismissed it as simply the work of a child with an overactive imagination,
We're getting
when you
into some of
factor
the
in the accounts of
Japanese
the father,
ships now.
which I
Some of
wasn't
those
familiar
real
with
cool.
initially. It does add a whole strange
What is
layer
it?
to the story. But did Mr.
Miyoko,
Y
I think?
encounter something strange himself?
The name of it. They've
and
got
then
this
simply
one.
impose his story onto the weird imaginative story his daughter had made up? Maybe
This
the
one
two
ship
aren't
that is
connected at
just,
all.
it's
After all,
way
Mr.
OP
Y was not
for
chased
its
through the
weight
sea
class.
by a strange clown man with a microphone. But could the sound he heard have been the same wailing sound that Faye and her friend heard in the field on that spring day? If it was simply made up, why did Faye wait 3 weeks to tell the story after being dismissed by the first grown-ups they encountered? And why, if they were doing it for attention, was the boy so reluctant to recount the story? Also, why was Sam so cryptic when asked about what he was? It's really interesting that the children themselves specifically said they thought he was either a man dressed up or a ghost. The referring to him as a clown
What if he was
seems to have
dressed up
come
ghost?
later as people read the story.
That would be
The
really
description the children gave almost makes him sound like a wooden marionette of some kind. And that's the other element of this. The strange mix of the natural and the high-tech. His hut is metallic on the outside, but has wooden furniture inside. His clothes are ragged and worn, and he apparently had some kind of antenna, but that was made out of wood. There is, of course, a darker interpretation of this story. The descriptions of Sam do possibly suggest that he could have been a man in some sort of creepy mask.
Right?
His muffled speech and non-moving lips adding to this theory. This makes the whole idea of him leading the children back to his shack all the more
Yeah,
chilling.
the fact that they do,
Some
they
have
went.
suggested
Why
that
would
he
they
could have been
go?
some sort of traveling
Why?
entertainer.
Why on God's green earth would you
magician
be
of
like,
some kind,
oh yeah, there's a creepy dude in
based
a
on his
mask
peculiar
inviting me
trip
back
with
to
the
his
berry,
creepy shack
that
in the
this
middle of
was in
freaking
fact a
nowhere?
very real encounter
Wonder what
with
he's
a very
got
strange
planned.
but real human that has been twisted with a child's imagination about something more magical. But other than feeling uneasy around him, both children painted Sam as a friendly person and did not suggest anything more happened to them beyond a conversation. Regarding his
ram
lips
that
not
battleship.
moving, at no point did the children say he was wearing a
I'll
mask.
try to do it from behind.
If you want to get into wilder ideas about what Sam was,
Wait for it.
could he have simply taken on the
Yep,
form
yep.
of something
Yep.
he thought would be
And turn.
enticing to children? A sort of colourful character that might be seen on a children's TV show. But maybe that facade wasn't working quite right. Could this be the reason for his muffled speech and odd movements?
Damn it.
Or even the reason why sections of his home seemed to be decked out with wallpaper and furniture, while others were cold and metallic? There certainly wasn't the same cultural uneasiness about clowns back then as there is today. Was
Boy, my
Sam
brother would have
betraying
murdered
himself
that
to the
man.
children in this
That
way
poor bastard would have come across
because
that
he
clown,
wanted them to like him?
and it would have been an immediate knee-jerk
Or
reaction to just beat him to death
lure
with
them in.
anything nearby.
We will never know.
Yeah, you don't
what
like it
truly
either,
happened
John
on that
Denicola.
day.
I don't,
But nonetheless,
I
the
don't
legend
hate
of
it.
Sam the Sandown Clown
but
has at least left us
at the same
strange
time,
story
I'm
to
not a
share,
huge fan.
and a
It
potential
hasn't
example
sold me yet.
of high strangeness taking place on a
The
normal
thing
day.
is, the only reason I'm doing it
That's
is
all for this entry into the tape library. I would love to know what
A
you
lot of
made
my,
of Sam the Sandown Clown.
my subscribers
A
come
totally
in
made
from
up
the
story.
shorts feed.
A
And so I kind
supernatural
of
entity
figured
of
that
some
maybe
kind.
they would come back across me in the
something in
live
between.
feed shorts.
Drop me a comment
live
below and let me
stream
know your
shorts
thoughts.
feed thing.
Thank you all
I don't
once
know.
again to
But
everyone
apparently,
who has
if you're
subscribed
not
to this channel.
not streaming for
I very
like
much was making these videos
8
for myself
hours,
when I started
they
out.
don't care.
And to a certain
Nobody
degree still am.
cares. It's a really weird.
It's a way
sort
for me
of
to think
format.
about strange, creepy
Like I
stories
said, I'm not a huge fan.
and
of
then edit them in a way that I personally enjoy. I always assumed my style would be kind of niche, so the fact that so many of you enjoy these too is genuinely touching. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I plan to keep bringing you these weird tales for a long time.
Yeet.
Until next time, pleasant dreams.
Yep. Ooh, that was
Of
close.
Oblivion. All right, now let's look at the facts that happened in this amazing story. It's fascinating, it's incredible to listen to, but let's see what's true and what's not. It all began with Frau Trofea's spontaneous dance marathon. She danced relentlessly, attracting curious onlookers who couldn't resist joining in. As the days passed, more and more people joined the dancing frenzy. By the end of the first week, there were around 34 dancers. Shockingly, within a month, The number of dancers had swelled to over 400. The dancers were unable to control their movements, their bodies swaying and gyrating uncontrollably. They would collapse from exhaustion only to wake up and resume their frenzied dance. Some danced until they dropped dead from sheer exhaustion or suffered heart attacks and strokes.
Ugh.
Or at least that's what some
see
say.
you
There
going for?
hasn't been a whole lot of evidence suggesting that actually happened. The dance, yes, happened.
What's
Fascinating.
up, Rico the
But
Snavy?
not
Smash.
the deaths.
Roar.
Those have been unconfirmed.
Right.
But the phenomenon wasn't limited to Strasbourg. It spread like wildfire across Europe. Similar outbreaks occurred in places like Cologne and Metz. The dancing plague tested the limits of human endurance and baffled everyone who witnessed it. And to this day, scholars and researchers are still trying to make sense of the dancing plague. Many theories have been
All right.
proposed,
So this
ranging
is
from the
gonna be the most
supernatural to
boring
the
game
scientific.
because I'm in a
So let's
battleship.
explore
It
some of
takes
the most
about
intriguing
12 minutes for
speculation
that thing to
surrounding
get
the
up to
enigma.
speed.
During the 16th century, people were highly superstitious, and it was common to attribute unexplained events to supernatural forces. Some believed that the dancers were cursed or possessed by demons. Exorcisms and prayers were performed in an attempt to free the afflicted dancers from their torment. Now, what about mass hysteria and psychogenic illnesses? Mass hysteria is a phenomenon where a group of people collectively experience unexplained physical symptoms or behaviors.
All right.
Some
So-
researchers believe
So what we've got is a group of people in town who started dancing. It started with two people. They got up and they the accounts say that they with great levity began a joyous dance for no explicable reason. They did not seem to enjoy themselves, and yet they could not stop. And they danced and they danced and they danced. And I have a theory, a hypothesis, if you will, that this story and the story of the Little Mermaid, where she felt like she was walking on knives, and also the story about the witch who was given the boots that made her dance herself to death, the hot steel boots or whatever they were. I think all of those stories might be related in some sort of historical fashion that we don't understand, that they're sourced from the same possibly lexicon of stories, if not actually the same derivative source. That's just a guess, though, because the idea of people dancing themselves to death is just batshit. That is crazy. To death. I mean, at a rave with the right facilitations, perhaps, but there's no way my ass is going to go out there and YMCA myself into a casket. That's no chance.
that the dancing plague was a case of mass psychogenic illness, where social and psychological factors
I'm
played
gonna
a significant
re-am 'em.
role. The stress and anxiety of living in a time of famine, disease, and political unrest may have triggered this mass hysteria. We're going to dig deeper into this concept in a moment. I believe that's probably what happened, but let's look at some other options. Ergot poisoning, or ergot poisoning, how we pronounce that. It's another prominent theory suggesting that the dancers were knowingly exposed to ergot, a fungus that grows on rye and wheat. Ergot contains a compound called ergotamine, which can cause
the dancing
hallucinations,
chicken
muscle
was forced to
spasms, and other
dance because of a
neurological
hot
symptoms.
plate.
Consumption of contaminated bread or
Oh,
grain
I'm
could
gonna have
have
to eat one of
triggered the
these, I think.
uncontrollable
I might be able to
dancing
squeeze.
seen
Ah,
during
nope, got
the
it.
dancing plague.
That is
I
unfortunate.
just like to say ergot because it sounds more French, and this is a story coming from France. It makes sense to me, and it makes me sound more intellectual. But if I don't have it right, correct me in the comments. There are other social and cultural factors. Dance was an integral part of medieval society, often used as a form of religious expression or communal bonding. Some historians believe that the dancing plague was a manifestation of the intense social and cultural pressure to conform to societal norms. The dancers may have been caught in a cycle of social expectation, unable to stop due to the fear of being ostracized. So let's dig deeper
I don't
into the
buy that.
historical
I don't
instances
buy
of
that
mass
at all.
hysteria. Do they exist?
Sure.
Absolutely, they do.
Yes, they do.
There have been numerous instances of mass hysteria throughout history. Mass hysteria
Well, it's
refers
coming
to
down
a
like a cow
phenomenon
pissing
where
on
a
a flat
group of
rock
people
outside.
experiences unexplained physical symptoms or behaviors without a clear medical cause. These episodes often spread through a population due to rumors, fear, or collective illusions of threats. Let's explore a few notable
You want
examples.
to make your chicken dance? What
You have
do
this, the
is
dancing
you
plague of
take you a,
1518. It's one of the most famous
what do you
cases
call
of
it?
mass hysteria. What about the Salem witch trials? In
Any
colonial
old hot plate of
Massachusetts in the
dude,
late
like
17th century, a
an
wave
oven
of
knife,
mass
you put it under
hysteria
a metal
swept
plate,
through the
and you
town of
put a
Salem.
very thin piece
It
of
began
wood
when a
across
group
the
of
top
young
of that
girls
metal
claimed
plate.
to be possessed by
And when you turn the
witches.
metal on, it'll
This
heat the
led to a
plate. The wood
series
will
of
get a little
trials and
too
executions
uncomfortable for the
fueled by fear
chicken.
and
It won't
paranoia.
really
The Salem
hurt
witch
them
trial
at
serves as
first,
a chilling example of mass hysteria,
but
driven by religious extremism and
the
groupthink.
chicken will
And don't think for a second that because
dance
you
around.
don't have a religion that you can't have a religious extremism. Your lack of a religion is a religion itself. Sorry to say. What about the meowing nuns and
I'm gonna go
laughter
try to ram the
epidemics?
freaking
Throughout history, there have been
aircraft carrier.
instances
I
of
didn't know
mass
there was an
hysteria
aircraft
involving
carrier out
unusual
there. I went
symptoms.
look for that thing
For
to
example,
start
in the
with.
Middle Ages, there were reports of nuns meowing like cats and biting each other. In another case, known as the Tanganyika laughter epidemic of 1962,
That's
a
another
few
good one.
schoolgirls in
People just
Tanzania
started laughing until they died.
uncontrollably, which spread to hundreds of people and caused schools to close. Now, I'm familiar with this. As a Christian,
It's
I remember
wild.
years ago in a town near me, it's actually a large state with lots of people in it. I don't want to say which one it
Good
is,
Lord,
but
it is
I remember
coming
when I
down
was in
out
high
there.
school, there was a church that started this laughing revival. And so as soon as church started, people started laughing. And that became a norm. The next Sunday, the same thing. The next Sunday, the same thing. And then that started to spread to other churches. And that's just what they call church.
Somebody
I
bless me.
find
Good
that as
Lord.
mass hysteria. Yes, I'm a
bless
religious
the child,
person if
bless
you want
you.
to classify that, but I still
Bless
do
you,
believe
bless
in
you,
this concept
bless
of
the
mass
hot
hysteria.
child.
I would like
Yes,
to view
sir.
myself as an open-minded Christian, one that has his faith and his science too. Believe it or not, they can coexist. What about social media-induced illnesses?
Social
In very
media
recent
induced
years,
illness.
there have been reports of mass hysteria-like
I think that's
incidences
just social
related
media.
to social
ain't
media.
it?
For instance, teenagers mimicking each other's behaviors, such as tics or spasms, after exposure to influencers or online trends. These incidents highlight the influence of modern communication platforms on the spread of mass hysteria. How do you explain dancing? I should never do that again on this channel, but I see a lot of
I should do
people
it
doing
more
that on
often.
TikTok.
Hold on.
Looks just like it. Look it up. Mimicking each other's behaviors, such as tics or spasms, after exposure to influencers or online trends. These incidents highlight the influence of modern communication platforms on the spread of mass hysteria. How do you explain dancing? I should never do that again on this channel, but I see a lot of people doing that on TikTok. Looks just like it. Look it up. These are just a few examples of the many instances of mass hysteria that have occurred throughout history. Each case is unique with its own set of circumstances and contributing factors. Mass hysteria serves as a reminder of the power of collective beliefs, fears, and social dynamics in shaping human behavior. Please note that the examples I just provided are not an exhaustive list. There are many more instances of mass hysteria documented in history, in our recent history. We'll look at a few more in just a second. So
Okay.
are there common triggers for mass hysteria? Common triggers for mass hysteria can vary, but there are more factors that often play a role. According to experts, mass hysteria typically occurs when a group of people develops a common fear or belief that quickly spiral into panic. We talked about that earlier. Here are some common triggers that have been observed in cases of mass hysteria. All right, we find that shared beliefs in groupthink, or mass hysteria, like we keep calling it, often arises when individuals within a group share a common belief or fear. This shared belief can be influenced by rumors, misinformation, or a collective illusion of threats. Group dynamics and the tendency to conform to the beliefs of others can amplify the spread of mass hysteria. Sometimes mass hysteria can be triggered by environmental factors. For example, the perception of exposure to a toxic chemical or the presence of an unfamiliar odor can lead to individuals to develop symptoms associated with that exposure. The brain has a very interesting link to the body. Kind of tells it what to do and how to feel. And this can create a feedback loop where others who witness these symptoms start experiencing them as well. What about times of emotional stress and anxiety? High levels of emotional stress and anxiety within a community or group, stressful events such as natural disasters, political unrest, or economic crisis can create an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, making individuals more susceptible to collective panic. Can the media itself, not just social media, but the mass media, legacy, whatever you want to call it, can they provide an influence? Yes. The media can play a significant role in the spread of mass hysteria. Intense media coverage of a particular event or
They're
illness
coming to get me.
can heighten public awareness and contribute to the amplification of fears and anxieties. Misinformation or sensationalized reporting can further fuel the spread of mass hysteria.
Oh, that was so
Underlying
unfortunate.
social, cultural, or political divisions can create an environment where fears and anxieties are easily amplified and spread.
Sure.
It's important to note that the
Especially
triggers
if you're
for
in an
mass
echo
hysteria
chamber
can
and
be
everybody
complex
tells you it's true.
and
then
multifaceted.
well, it
Each
sucks.
case is unique and influenced by a combination of
Scully's
factors
House of Thrillers.
specific to the
Welcome back,
particular
bud.
situation and the
I
individuals
am
involved.
gaming incorrect.
Mass hysteria usually spreads verbally and visually. When people see or hear about someone experiencing symptoms, they may begin to experience
How
similar
you doing,
symptoms
bud?
themselves.
You doing good tonight?
This
I hope
communication and shared experiences can amplify the spread of
so.
mass
Trying to have a shitty
hysteria
day myself.
all over the place. In the past, rumors and word of mouth played a significant role in the rapid dissemination of information.
I'm
In
not a
today's
fan of
digital
bad
age,
days.
platforms
What's up,
can also
Cynthia?
contribute to the
You
rapid
said you
spread
wanted
of
to talk
mass
to me. You
hysteria.
want to come talk to me
Don't
now?
believe me? Go on
Do I
any
have your
social
email
media site
address?
today. What about societies and
Let's see.
cultures? Different societies may have specific beliefs, superstitions, or cultural practices that contribute to the development of collective fears and anxieties. Pre-existing tensions or conflicts within a community can also create an environment where fears and anxieties are easily amplified and spread. And some studies suggest that instances of mass hysteria are more commonly experienced by groups of women. Don't get mad at me. This is just what my research showed me. This observation does not imply that women are more prone to mass hysteria, but rather reflects the societal and cultural context in which mass hysteria often occurs. Women may be more exposed to collective obsessional behavior due to their typical exposure to stressful situations. See, I'm still pro-woman. In some cases, physical symptoms associated with mass hysteria can provide a non-confrontational way of expressing distress or resistance within a challenging social or work environment. The way the media portrays and frames an issue can influence how people
You've
interpret
got
and
mail.
respond to it. Biased reporting, selective presentation of
I will be
facts,
distracted.
or the
slightly.
use of emotive language can sway public opinion and contribute to the development of mass hysteria. It is important for the media to provide accurate, balanced, and responsible information to prevent the escalation of mass panic. Do we see any of that today? No, we do not. Media coverage of distressing or alarming events can evoke strong emotional responses in individuals. Fear, anxiety, and uncertainty can be heightened when people are repeatedly exposed to distressing videos, images, or stories through various media channels. This emotional impact can contribute to the development and spread of mass hysteria as individuals react to the perceived threat or danger. This is why I personally have a social media and all media fast from time to time. When I realize that I feel like I'm being manipulated by what I'm seeing over and over again, because the algorithm knows that you're interested in that story, so they keep playing it over and over again. When I keep seeing that and it keeps bringing some sort of emotion in me, now it's time to back away. The algorithm wants to confirm your bias. So whichever that is, and
That is
I'm not
accurate.
claiming that I don't have a bias. Clearly,
That's
if you watch my
absolutely
videos, I have my own
accurate.
bias. I talk about open-mindedness and things like that, but I have my own worldview. And you do too, and there's nothing wrong with that. I believe as adults, we should be able to have our own biases and be able to discuss them and be able to respect each other's differences of
Damn it.
opinion and bias. And
I'm
maybe,
gonna
just
die.
maybe, you may persuade me like an adult, and I may persuade you like an adult through conversation, discourse, and the general exchange of ideas. So I've got one last question on this today. Are there historical examples of media-induced hysteria? Since I've kind of been bagging on the
War of
media
the
quite a
Worlds.
bit today.
War of the Worlds is a classic
Well,
example.
the answer is an emphatic yes. Yes, there are historical examples of media-induced hysteria. The media has the power to shape public perception and influence collective behavior. here are just a few notable examples. The War of the Worlds radio broadcast in 1938. In 1938, Orson Welles and his Mercury Theater on the Air performed a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. The broadcast, presented as a series of news bulletins, was so realistic that it caused widespread panic among listeners who believed that a Martian invasion was actually taking place. The media's portrayal of the broadcast as a real news event contributed to the...
Okay, so that's a really good story in and of itself. That whole premise was set up specifically to try to be more engaging than other radio programs of the day, and I think we can rank it as a rank success. It utilized actual news anchors of the day. They performed most of it live. What little bit they did have prep was basically just script and whatnot. I think there were a few pre-recorded segments that were added in for like folks on the ground and the special effects and stuff. What's up, Logical Spock? You know, the sound effects and whatnot. That stuff was all prepped beforehand, I think, to some extent. But for the most part, it was very much like what would happen on one of Scully's performances, where a group of people just got together and pulled off the greatest hoax in the history of the world. And there was a disclaimer at the beginning where the only aspect of disclaim was, this is a production. I don't believe he said it was a play or fictional or nothing like that, just that it was a production. It was produced. It's not, which implies that it's not meant to be taken serious. But then again, I do production work for both news programs and sound programs and stuff. Like, I mean, as a producer, I do work for people who, on the sound side of stuff, as well as in the actual like live stream doing stuff simultaneously stuff. And some of that stuff is a logistical nightmare, especially when you have 5 or 6 creators. And the way Scully does it's probably a little easier than the way I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to get people to record segments and send them in, right? And the issue with this is no one wants their work tampered with, but the person whose channel the particular work that I'm working on at the time is going up on gets the final say on what is permissible and what is not. So I submit it to them. They make the call. I edit out whatever's not permissible, and we go with that unless there is something along the line said of, you know, an agreement of not touching it or not using it or whatever. And in that case, I don't use it. So right? I mean, you got to be legit with your folks or else they won't trust you. And if they can't trust you, nobody will ask you to do anything. And if no one asks you to do anything, what are you doing?
The mass hysteria that ensued. And to this day, that's why so many people claim that the reason why the government doesn't want to tell us that there might be alien life out there is because of what happened during that broadcast of the War of the Worlds back in 1938. They're afraid of...
Hold up. How about this? The government finally admits not only are there aliens, but we've been in contact with them for the past 300 years. I know of 3 people right now who claim to have been abducted, who would all look me straight in the face and say, I told you so.
This public mass hysteria where people will stop going to jobs, people will stop being productive in society and paying their taxes and things like that. And oh my goodness, they're so concerned with the religious institutions that may crumble and be destroyed.
I got an idea.
They're not worried about that.
I kind of feel stupid.
But I do believe that they're worried about you not being productive and giving them money through your taxes. But let's continue on. I am particularly old enough to remember the satanic panic in the 1980s. During the 1980s, there was a widespread belief that satanic cults were engaging in ritual abuse and child molestation. This belief was fueled by sensationalized media coverage, including books, TV shows, and news reports.
Now you can poke me in the face.
The media's portrayal of these allegations as factual led to a moral panic, resulting in false accusations, wrongful convictions, and the destruction of innocent lives. Now, I'm not saying that none of those things were true. I'm not saying that there weren't people that were doing these satanic rituals and doing those nasty things I just talked about. What I am saying is that it actually did impact some people that were innocent.
What did everybody have for supper tonight? If you have had your supper, I had cubed steak with mashed potatoes and gravy and a little bit of greens on the side. I do believe I am well fed.
Because that's how mass hysteria works. Let's not be hysterical about things that are going on. Let's instead be sober-minded and pay attention and do what's right. In 2016, there was a wave of reports and social media posts about creepy clowns appearing in various locations across the United States. The media coverage of these sightings, along with viral videos and photos, created a sense of fear and panic among the public. Many people became afraid of encountering
Give
clowns.
me the money.
Some even organized vigilante groups to hunt down the supposed clowns. However, most of the reported sightings turned out to be hoaxes or pranks perpetuated by the media attention. I got to be honest, I was looking for clowns during that time too. I'm just saying, I remember that. I remember looking around to see if I could find a clown that was going to try to mess up my day, because I was going to mess up theirs. And then most recently, we have the most recent pandemic. I think I could talk about this now on YouTube, but the pandemic as another example where media coverage has played a significant role in shaping public perception and behavior.
I guess not.
The constant stream of news, updates, and images related to the created fear, anxiety, and panic among the population. We started seeing words like misinformation, sensationalized reporting, and conflicting narratives have further contributed to the mass hysteria surrounding
What's up, Mr. and
that
Mrs.
sickness.
Knack? Welcome in. Good to see
Media's portrayal of the pandemic has
Remember to
influenced
like,
public
comment,
response,
and subscribe.
government policies, and
you know,
individual
don't.
behavior. People lost
You can
friends
even lie and
over
say you
this.
did, and
I
no
know
one
I
would
did.
ever know the difference.
And it wasn't because I befriended people. It's because they befriended me. But these examples demonstrate how media-induced hysteria can occur when sensationalized or misleading information is disseminated to the public. It is important for the media to exercise responsibility when dealing with any of these events.
I think
So what
we
do we
want
do
all
about it?
angles of
How do
all
people
events,
differentiate
all the time,
between
every
fact
day,
and fiction?
everywhere.
Well,
all
that
the
can
time.
sometimes be challenging, especially when it comes to media and information consumption. Here are a few ways people can navigate this distinction. So first off, verification and evidence.
Right?
Facts are pieces of information that can be proven or verified as true through evidence, research, or documentation.
But what about false facts?
It is important to
facts are a
critically
linguistic
evaluate
tool.
the sources of information
They exist.
and look for reliable evidence to support claims. There also needs to be a significant amount of critical thinking. Developing critical thinking skills can help individuals analyze and evaluate information more effectively. This involves questioning the source, considering the biases, checking for logical consistency, and seeking multiple perspectives. That's a lost art form. And then there needs to be some media literacy. Being media literate involves understanding how media messages are constructed, the techniques used to influence perception, and the potential biases or agenda behind them.
All of
Media
that
literacy
crap
empowers
matters.
us to critically evaluate media content and distinguish between fact and fiction.
This is wild.
There are fact-checking sites, but you
Chat
have to do your due diligence and see
attack!
which ones that you actually
Welcome in,
think
Cat
are
Attack.
providing
Good to
truth and
see ya.
don't have their own
Appreciate you
agenda
coming
behind them.
by.
They do exist, though. But
Yeah, they do.
outside of the fact-checking sites, you can actually cross-reference yourself information from multiple sources, and that can help identify inconsistencies or discrepancies. Comparing different perspectives and sources actually can provide a more comprehensive understanding of a topic and help separate fact from fiction. Phew, that was a lot. Today's video was a lot longer than normal,
I liked it.
but we have many more
I think you did a
videos
good
on
job.
strange occurrences and
I really
folklore here
appreciate
on this
that,
channel.
that
In
wrap
fact,
up at the end
YouTube is
about
recommending one to you right now.
misinformation. I don't know where
Be
I'd
sure
be
to check it out, and we will see you
if I didn't see
next
it.
time.
Also, you got to love those. Okay, all right, hold on. This is the thing. This man says that he came to Georgia and stayed in an abandoned city in Georgia, and I went, "The hell's he doing in Toomsboro?" But then no, it turns out he's in Milledgeville. That's not an abandoned city. That's 126,000 people up there, some shit like that. That's not abandoned, bro. You were in a closed portion of a campus. It's completely, it's not public. You're not supposed to be able to go in there and stuff. Like, I don't know how you got in there. I don't know who you know. I don't know what's going on there. But if you would like to see an actual fully abandoned city, go to a place that may or may not be on the map to this day called Toomsboro. It's just a little bit farther down the train tracks than Milledgeville. It's actually right around the corner, so to speak. Not a soul lives there. The landowners in that place are all big landowners, and the actual city itself is currently for sale if you wish to buy it.
Hey everyone, my name is Trent and I live, travel, and game out of my van, and along my travels I often stumble upon creepy, weird, or abandoned places, and today is no different. As I'm traveling off to my next destination, today I will be driving through a very unique town here in Georgia, and that town is named Milledgeville. And the reason why this place is so unique is because Milledgeville has this whole campus of abandoned buildings just sitting in the middle of the city. And you guys know me, I love that sort of stuff. And finding a place like that here on the eastern side of the States is very few and far between. So I'm gonna start making my way there right now and explore the grounds a little bit, and then later on find a place to sleep for the night nearby. It should be pretty fun, so follow along.
There's a hotel right down the road, bro. It's not even far. I'm assuming he's either at the old hospital, or he's at the part of the GMC campus that's closed.
All right,
Georgia Military College.
I've officially made it here, and this place feels strange. There are so many abandoned buildings, one after the next. And the weirdest part about it is, like, there's no one around. I mean, I guess it makes sense because these buildings are abandoned, but it really does feel like an abandoned city.
Well, he took a full load and kept chugging. Man, I'm gonna go ram him. Do that trash.
Yeah. Good girl. Sit.
Oh shit!
Good job.
Where's it at? Ooh. It's over there. I'm fixing to do that old Japanese joke called supply. Oh crap, it's not gonna work. Nice. What's the chances, bro?
Wow.
Oof.
This place is hauntingly beautiful.
I don't know about all that. It has
That's the best phrase I can come up with.
Antebellum.
All these buildings, their architecture is just really, really pretty, but the fact that they're abandoned, decrepit, and left to decay just has a very spooky vibe to it.
I'm almost certain. I'm almost positive.
Especially this building, knowing its history.
Awesome. What's up? Hola.
This building here actually opened in 1842 as the Georgia Lunatic Asylum. And when it opened, it was at max capacity and they were way understaffed, which led to a decline in quality treatment for the patients that lived here. It was actually so bad that this place was notorious for its mistreatment of patients. There were rumors of children being confined to cages, adults living in straitjackets, forced shock.
No, all that trash. Everything you would normally hear from insane asylums and hospitals and sanitariums, all that stuff. All of that applies to this place. This is one of those places where everything sucked. Out behind this place, the legend, the lore says that there is a mass grave that is pre-Civil War, and that's why the insane asylum was built there, was because before the Civil War, it was the grounds of a hospital type place before. After Sherman comes through and burns everything, there's nothing left of it, and so the state decides to purchase the land, which was owned, I believe, actually the state may have already owned it. I can't remember that part of it. They probably owned it. But they constructed a hospital on the location of what used to be a hospital, as I understand it. So something like that. But if he wanted to go to an abandoned city, he could have gone to like a straight up abandoned city. You can own the water tower if you pay them.
Therapy with electricity and even ice baths, all in this building right here.
I'm happy to see you too, bro. Welcome.
Holy crap. This is insane. So we've got this giant white building that looks like the White House. We've got this abandoned building over there, that abandoned building over there. There's the asylum over there, another building, and then all these buildings over there are abandoned. And even further down these roads are more abandoned buildings. Like, this is so weird and cool. It really does feel like a movie set here. And I'd be real surprised if a movie hadn't been filmed here yet, because this is like the perfect post-apocalyptic city set ever.
A better one. Several parts of The Walking Dead was filmed in Georgia for exactly that reason. We've got some really weird architecture that's juxtaposed strangely against each other.
Dude, I straight up feel like I am in a video game right now, specifically of the horror genre. Oh, wow. It smells like a government building. Look at the size of these doors. This is so insane. Wow.
Ancient Georgians were actually giants. They were 12 or 14 foot tall. We are minuscule. You're lucky.
This building
is
definitely newer than most of these buildings. It's a lot more intact, that's for sure. But I think this is the hospital. I don't know much history about it. Don't know why it's abandoned. Could be just lack of funding. I don't know.
Asbestos, lead paint. You probably should be wearing a mask, bro. Come to think of it, I wouldn't go in there. Black mold, like freaking.
Looks
most
like
of these places
there's even
were built before
abandoned
plumbing.
houses here.
Well, yeah, you'd have folks that lived on site, like guards and whatnot.
Wow, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It really does feel like I just stepped into a post-apocalyptic world. This is wild. Man, what happened here? Feels a little bit like everybody just got up and left, which is really strange because Milledgeville is actually a really bumpin' town. Like, there's a college here, there's a great population. So the fact that this whole abandoned compound exists here, it just blows my mind. But it's so cool, and I'm glad it does, because people like me that enjoy this type of stuff can come out here and admire it. And it's a great way to spend my Thursday afternoon.
So this means he came within like 25 miles of my house. Hey, John. What up?
Oh, hi, Millie.
Yeah, I think he left a little while ago. He may return, though.
Okay, so I am doing some research on my phone as to why this place closed. And apparently this whole campus is called Central State Hospital.
Yep.
And all of these buildings were a part of the hospital. But essentially in 1842, the Georgia Lunatic Asylum opened up. And then the hospital was renamed to Georgia State Sanitarium, and then Milledgeville State Hospital. And then in 1959, the Atlanta Constitution exposes horrific conditions at Milledgeville, the nation's largest psychiatric hospital with almost 13,000 patients. And then in 2007, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports on the suspicious deaths of 136 state hospital patients, 42 being at Central State. And then from there, the U.S. Department of Justice opens an investigation. And then by 2010, they closed this whole place down.
All right. So
that's freaking crazy.
Here's an issue with all that. Not all of the patients had somewhere to go, right? Not everyone who was let out of there had family to go back to once they were let out. Some of those people live in like homelessly, unhoused, whatever the proper term is, around the campus. They're out there because they don't know where else to go, is the story that we're given. I think it's closer to random sightings of actual unhoused homeless people that are just, you know, attributed to that trash. But it's still a great story. And I had forgotten half the stuff that he just read.
That's sketchy. How do you feel about all that, Millie? You think it's kind of crazy, huh? Yeah, me too. Give me that. Give me that. Give it to me. Give it to me. Oh, it's mine now. You got to run for it. You ready? You ready? Okay, go.
Yee. Go get it, buddy. Ready up, buddy.
All right. It's starting to get dark here, so I think I'm going to start packing up and try to find a place nearby to camp for the night. Come on, Millie. Let's go.
I would strongly advise you to go
Good
to
girl.
Oahu, and then maybe a day's in. It's just outside that place. You go out this place and I believe take a right, depending on which exit he uses. But it's right over there. It's just out of sight. Homemade spaghetti. Philly cheesesteak and fries. Baby girl, you are speaking my language. Yeah.
All right. I think this is home for the night. I found this open parking lot in the midst of this compound of abandoned buildings. So tonight we truly are stealth camping, and I think it's a good thing that I've got no obvious signs that I live out of my vehicle. My van just looks like a work van.
For the most part, cops around here really don't care as long as you're not like out smoking weed, standing outside your vehicle, freaking building fires and silly crap like that. I mean, you can pull up to about half of the freaking hotels down here, and the only thing that would happen is if they noticed you at all, and I wouldn't bet on them noticing you, but if they noticed you at all, is maybe ask if you're okay, or if you need some help, or if you need to use the phone. We're in the South here, bud. When you get abandoned on the side of the road, that shit can be lethal. It gets really hot, and you can't sweat here because it's already wet. It's so humid. If you don't wash your eyebrows, you'll grow mushrooms.
And then I've seen a ton of work vans all around here. So I think we're golden, but I'm getting hungry. So I'm going to head inside and start making some dinner.
Appreciate it, Machado. You have a good night.
So I'm actually really excited for tonight's dinner because it's a Factor meal, and Factor happens to be today's video sponsor as well. And believe it or not, I actually really do love these meals. Like, I've eaten them so many times. But for those of you guys that don't know, Factor is a service that delivers fresh, never frozen, ready-to-eat meals straight to your front doorstep. There's no stressing about meal planning. There's no recipe to follow. All you got to do is heat up your chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, delicious meals right in the microwave, or in my case, I'm going to heat mine up in my oven in my van, and then eat. And for tonight's meal, I'm actually eating one of my favorites, which
I want to see more of the campus. That's what I'm here to see. I wish to see campus. Show me campus now. Well, no, it's an actual, I mean, I can respect the man for doing an ad read. I don't have a problem with that. If you can make money doing this stuff, you make money doing it. You go get that bag and you don't sweat what people think about it. If people are willing to donate to you, you take that money. That's a gift. They wish to give it to you. It's not like you're out there making them send you money. Now, if you're going to be one of them asshats what runs around doing the whole woe is me, I need another $12 so I can get to the rehab or else I'm going to die. No. That's evil. Cool. Hey, can't spell Lou. If I started a Minecraft server, would you be interested in playing on it? Because I am debating on doing that or opening the server.
Good morning, folks. Last night was a successful night of sleep. That rain was coming down all night long, and honestly, that may have been one of the best sleeps I've had in a long time. But I didn't receive a knock last night. Had no problems staying in this parking lot, thankfully. And I think that's because my van just looks like a work van. Like, it looks like it fits here in this industrial parking lot. I think when people see this as they're driving by, they just don't think much of it, which I'm really thankful for. And that's definitely something to think about if you're going to be living and traveling out of a van.
I have no intention of living in a van. None. I have an intention of building a mobile studio. Although I gotta admit, he got it pretty cush up in there, man. It's pretty flush. I feel like that wasn't cheap. Wow. Oh, I got hit by, okay. All right. Well, I was kind of planning on doing a 7 days to die type concept where you get 7 days to build whatever you want, dig yourself in. And then for the first day, it's on first 2 days, it's on easy. The second,
well,
2
folks,
days, it's on hard.
I couldn't figure out where to go today, so I just drove 4 hours south.
And it goes back to another week of being able
we made it to the coast. And tonight I'm staying at this boat ramp. And believe it or not, but boat ramps are actually really good options for overnight places to sleep, because a lot of people who have boats take their boats out on the water for days at a time, and they leave their vehicles parked here. So boat ramps usually allow overnight parking, and this one specifically does.
All right. So this boat ramp that he's at right here, if I'm not mistaken, is on the north side of Lake Sinclair over there. It's actually that's a little ways away from the campus he was at a minute ago. But the cool part about that area, once you get on the boat, there are restaurants, there are grocery stores, there are hotels, there are bars, there are everything you would find in a typical small town where you would have your typical meet up with people. You can do all of that stuff on the lake. My mama's people, they don't own vehicles, not cars. They all own boats, and that's how they function. They don't go to town. They get on the boat and go to the grocery store over there. It's wild. These people also speak their own sort of pidgin English language that's it's English, but it's a very corrupted English in that the word rice and ice and ass rhyme. I will whoop yo ice. Don't be nice. I'll whoop your ice. And they speak really, really fast, and it's a wild dialect. And I can't do it. I can't just spit it out, or I would. But when I come across one of these people and they start talking like that, I can talk back that way because my mom taught me. And I spent a lot of time up there when I was a kid. But that lake is wild. It's got its own creepy freaking stories. Apparently there's a old logging town down there. There used to be a town in the valley, and when this was part of the whole, not the Tennessee Valley Authority, but something similar that went down in Georgia.
So we're going to post up here for the night, and what I'm thinking, tomorrow is supposed to be a nice, sunny, warm day. So I think we're going to go hit the beach get some vitamin D, feel the sand beneath our toes. I am so stoked because it's been a long time since I've been to the beach, folks.
All right. So when you came down here, you went through Warner Robins, and you remember the weird little restaurant place we saw up there with the freaking Odin guy outside. When you go down, take a left out of there, and you go down to that first intersection, take a left on it, you go, I think, to the first intersection again, you'll get to a highway called 441. You pop a right on that bad boy, and you will drive straight past where this dude's at right now. It was 2-3 hours away, maybe not even that long. It's a place called Milleville, where we used to keep the crazy people. And here's another thing. A lot of the people that were in the place had family that moved there to be near their family members so they could help with the hospital and help take care of them and finance them. And, you know, this kind of didn't have a commissary type situation, but you could bring corn pone and spat back. You could cook for your relatives. You could bring food to them and stuff like that. And the story goes that a lot of the people that lived there had family that moved in, and that's why Milledgeville is so crazy. It's because all the crazy people used to live there, and they all reproduced, and they're still there. It's like a little mini Florida in the middle of Georgia. It's wild.
Man, it feels so good to finally lay down after driving all day. And I don't know if there's a storm rolling in or not, but it's really windy outside, and that wind against these palm trees.
You're in Georgia. There is a storm currently coming.
It's a very therapeutic sound.
If you don't like the weather, stick around.
I might actually lay here for a bit before I make some dinner. This is so nice.
That's true. All right, bud. Well, you welcome back whenever you get back, bro. I'm going to try to run over this ship because I'm not going to make it. They're going to kill it before I get there. Don't kill it yet. I want to hit it. Ram them. I've been trying to ram a ship all night and they keep killing me. Damn it. Is there another one over here I can run into? No. Damn. All right. I am not going to stop until I manage to run into a ship. I almost got one while ago, but an aircraft, a freaking battleship got between me and my target. Oh, damn. I kind of feel like I know too much about this guy now. Left or right? They blew my rudder before I got a chance to turn. That very first explosion took my rudder off, and I was just trying to turn, and there wasn't no rudder there at all. I'm kind of tired of hearing this guy live. How about y'all? I thought there were more. Oh, he's just trying.
Pseudosuchians.
What is your favorite dinosaur? It's my question.
Crocodilians often evoke a
I like the crocodilians myself. Now, they're not my favorite dinosaur. I am a fan of the Utah raptor. I like the Utah raptor because, believe it or not, their brain case was about the same size as ours, although they were a good 2 foot bigger, and there's no evidence that they were intelligent. However, they did have all of the necessary accoutrements to become an intelligent species. That is to say, they had opposable digits. They could pick things up, manipulate them. Their forward legs were more dynamic than either the velociraptor or the oviraptor, and their individual 3-toed digits were capable of actually manipulating tools if needed. There's no evidence they ever did, and the only evidence we might be able to find at this point would be cut gems. That's all that would exist from a previous civilization over 60 million years ago. Cut gems. That's it.
A sense of awe. They are the largest living reptiles and the closest extant relatives of the dinosaurs. Crocodilians are often called living fossils due to resembling their own prehistoric ancestors from the age of reptiles. However, despite popular perception, not only did prehistoric crocodilians exhibit far greater diversity than most people realize, but these semi-aquatic predators represent just a mere fraction of the former diversity of the crocodilian.
That's true. If we were trying to observe this era in history, and we tried to document every crocodile we saw, crocodile type thing, crocodilian as it were, we would try to give damn near every specimen we saw its own species because they were exceptionally diverse. There were crocodilians that ran around and ate things like they lived more like bears. There were crocodilians that ran around in a pig type living. Like, I don't know of any crocodilians that were vegetarian, but if there's a vegetarian jellyfish, then I don't see any reason why a crocodile couldn't pull it off in a few million years.
Branch of reptiles, Pseudosuchia. Pseudosuchians once filled a bewildering variety of niches, ranging from marine forms who abandoned land entirely, terrestrial predators able to match the dinosaurs themselves, specialized herbivores, agile speedsters, armored tanks, and even long-necked bipedal dinosaur lookalikes.
Saber-toothed tiger.
During the late Triassic period, it was the Pseudosuchians who were the most common terrestrial megafauna, with their diversity exceeding that of the early dinosaurs.
Megafauna of the era.
Even after the age of dinosaurs began, Pseudosuchians remained the only fully terrestrial animals able to directly compete with them, so long as one doesn't count the flying pterosaurs as fully terrestrial. After the Mesozoic era ended, one group of surviving Pseudosuchians, the Sebekids, went on to become the largest terrestrial predators of the entire age of mammals. Despite all their achievements and vast diversity, most prehistoric Pseudosuchians remain perplexingly obscure. The Pseudosuchian Golden Age during the Triassic period is given little focus compared to the following reign of the dinosaurs, while media depictions of the later crocodile-like species are largely restricted to a handful of exceptionally large taxa like Deinosuchus. The others are largely confined to the background, while the contemporaneous land crocs are lucky to even appear there. The only major exceptions in the last 2 decades are the National Geographic documentary When Crocs Ate Dinosaurs and the recent appearance of the pug-nosed herbivore Simosuchus in Prehistoric Planet. The large, awe-inspiring Cenozoic sabechids like Barinasuchus, the terror of mammals, simply haven't appeared in media at all. Detailed educational material about prehistoric pseudosuchians is also rare, with books about them being next to non-existent. This is a great disservice to these once abundant and successful reptiles, the sister clade to the dinosaurs and pterosaurs. Many videos on this channel have covered a number of pseudosuchians, but this one is meant to serve as an overview of Pseudosuchia as a whole. It starts with covering how Pseudosuchia is related to other reptiles, describes their naming conventions, and gives a short rundown of modern crocodilian diversity. This is followed by a brief summary of the clade's 250 million year long history, an examination of features common among the clade, as well as how other traits differed between them. Finally, the second half of the video is an overview of the various subclades within Pseudosuchia, ranging from the familiar to the absolutely bizarre. By the end, you will never be able to look at crocodilians the same way again. Despite the comparisons commonly made between lizards and crocodilians, they are actually on opposite ends of reptilia. Instead, the closest living relatives of crocodilians are birds, the last living dinosaurs. Beneath their superficial differences, crocodilians and birds share a number of anatomical features to the exclusion of other reptiles, including four-chambered hearts and respiratory systems with unidirectional airflow. Crocodilians, birds, and all extinct reptiles who share a more recent common ancestor with them than with lizards are part of the clade Archosauromorpha. The more restrictive subclade Archosauria, the ruling reptiles, is formed by the last common ancestor of dinosaurs and crocodilia along with all of its descendants. Pseudosuchia is the branch of Archosauria which shares a more recent common ancestor with crocodilians than with dinosaurs. The Archosauromorphs evolved about 260 million years ago during the late Permian period, but their rise to dominance began during the following Triassic period, the first period of the Mesozoic era. It was possible due to a mass extinction at the end of the Permian called the Great Dying, which was caused by a period of extreme volcanism.
Yeah,
Life quickly diversified in its aftermath, and it wasn't long before the Archosauromorphs had shoved the remnants of the previously dominant animals, the synapsids, to the sidelines. The external appearance of the direct ancestors of the Archosaurs at the beginning of the Triassic period was not that different from that of crocodiles, although they had taller skulls and large downturned snouts. It has even been suggested that some of these reptiles were semi-aquatic, but this remains debated. In any event, these Archosauromorphs quickly became less superficially crocodile-like while simultaneously acquiring more of the traits that would later define Archosauria and in turn Pseudosuchia. By the late Triassic, the Archosaurs had emerged as the most successful of the Archosauromorphs. As mentioned earlier, Pseudosuchia is defined as the clade consisting of crocodilians and all the extinct reptiles which share a more recent common ancestor with them than with any other living species, specifically dinosaurs. All crocodilians are Pseudosuchians, but not all Pseudosuchians were crocodilians. However, since crocodilians are their closest living relatives, they were stem crocodilians. For comparison, early synapsids like the sail-backed Dimetrodon were stem mammals, and non-avian dinosaurs were still stem birds. While some stem crocodilians were nigh indistinguishable from true crocodilians, others had little more in common with them than they did with the dinosaurs. Crocodilia itself was once poorly defined, but is now officially the crown group within Pseudosuchia, meaning it is formed by the living species, their last common ancestor, and all the descendants of that ancestor. The Pseudosuchians formerly classified as crocodilians in decades past now belong to the more inclusive clade Crocodilomorpha, which was the only branch of Pseudosuchia which survived into the second period of the Mesozoic era, the Jurassic period. Officially, the clade consists of all Pseudosuchians more closely related to crocodilians than to Postosuchus, a fearsome carnivorous Pseudosuchian from late Triassic North America.
Welcome to the water.
Many crocodilomorphs, such as Simosuchus, still differed substantially from the crocodilians of today. Others, like the supercroc Sarcosuchus, could easily be mistaken for them, and although outside of the crown group, their similar appearances and lifestyles were the result of common ancestry. These near-crocodilians belong to the crocodilomorph subclade Neosuchia. Unsurprisingly, the definition of crocodilia has caused quite a bit of confusion for non-specialists. Dr. Michael J. Benton, one of the two paleontologists who created the current crown-based definition of crocodilia, eventually changed his mind, and in 2008 proposed revising crocodilia to once again include most of the other crocodilomorphs.
I hear I'm missing it.
However, by then the crown group definition of crocodilia had been in use for 2 decades, so his proposal was rejected.
I'm not a huge fan of tater salad.
On one hand, classifying distant relatives of crocodilians like the terrestrial Simosuchus as crocodilians would obscure just how different they are from the water-loving pseudosuchians of today. On the other hand, the current definition also excludes many Neosuchians who were incredibly similar to modern species, so popular sources often simply call them crocodilians anyway. Indeed,
so on PlayStation Network, I am Great Sky Troll. There's capitalizations at the beginning of every word. I don't remember if I put in the anti-drama part. I don't think so. Pretty sure. Figure it out from there. Oh, no. You there. Die. Wow. That was very effective. I didn't even hit him. He just died when I told him to. How about you? No? No, we're going to put one in you. I like the idea. Oh, no. Ooh. Thinking about ramming the other one. I don't play this often. What I'm trying to do is, I'm not sure what I'm trying to do. I was thinking about putting together a Minecraft server set up on like a cycle. So like you get a week to build, do in peace and happiness. And have you seen the 3 body problem? I'm kind of thinking up something sort of along those lines, right? Where every so often, disaster takes place. And what I mean is I turn on everything to nightmare levels for 3 days or 7 days or something like that. I don't know. I haven't really got it planned out yet, but it's in the planning stages. What I used to do is I would go to my friends' Minecraft servers and I would go find some random cave somewhere and create the most nightmarish dungeon type environment you could imagine. Just straight up deadly.
Some paleontologists will still informally refer to Neosuchians, crocodilomorphs, and occasionally even more distantly related pseudosuchians as crocodiles, although they will not be referred to as such here for the sake of clarity. It is important to note that crocodilian and crocodile are not synonymous. Crocodiles are those crocodilians which belong to the subclade Crocodiloidea. They are currently the most abundant crocodilians, with the genus Crocodylus containing 13 living species, roughly half of Crocodilia's remaining diversity. Besides Crocodylus, there are 2 other extant crocodile genera, Mescistops, commonly called the slender-snouted crocodiles, and Osteolamius, the dwarf crocodiles. Both genera contain a minimum of 2 species.
Yeah, that might be a little too soon there.
While alligators are often confused with crocodiles, they belong to a separate branch of Crocodilia, Alligatoroidea.
Some people don't agree.
Besides the familiar American alligator, there's also the significantly smaller Chinese
crocodile.
Alligator.
I had somebody tell me the other
today
day,
represented by
they were absolutely dead serious that there were no crocodiles in America. And I said, no, the American crocodile it's native here. It's not as big as a salty and could easily be mistaken for an alligator if you were running hard enough. But yeah, no, they're here. They're less aggressive than salties, and they live more in fresh water than salties. So, although as I understand it, there's a handful of salties down in Florida too. There's a handful of everything in Florida. Florida is becoming the new Australia.
6 species native to Central and South America are also alligatoroids, as was the extinct giant Deinosuchus. The smallest remaining branch of crocodilians is Gavialoidea, whose only 2 living species are the true gharial and Tomistoma, commonly called the false gharial. Gavialoids were once much more plentiful, but as will soon be clear, even all of Crocodilia's former diversity is merely a small slice of what was once contained within Pseudosuchia. The name Pseudosuchia, which means false crocodile, was coined in 1887 by paleontologist Carl Alfred von Zittel, who unknowingly created many headaches for future paleontologists. This name may have made sense in the 19th century when it only contained some Triassic relatives of crocodilians rather than the crocodilians themselves. However, it makes much less sense today. Under the modern cladistic system of classification, a clade must include all the descendants of its members, so crocodiles are technically false crocodiles. Another name for the same basic group of animals, Chrorotarsi, was used between 1990 to 2011. It was defined as the clade formed by crocodilians and phytosaurs, who were thought to be the earliest diverging pseudosuchians. Despite their appearance, phytosaurs were not the ancestors of crocodilians, but instead converged upon a similar body plan and lifestyle. In 2011, a major study of archosaur evolution was published, which concluded that phytosaurs were not pseudosuchians, but close relatives of both branches of Archosauria. Chrorotarsi is technically a valid clade, just one that may incorporate all archosaurs, not just the stem crocodilians. However, some recent research has found that the phytosaurs may actually be pseudosuchians as once thought, and while this matter remains unresolved, it will be assumed they are for the purposes of this video. Just as many dinosaur names end in saurus, it is typical for the scientific names of pseudosuchians to end in suchus. This convention even extends to 3 living species of crocodilians, the black caiman Melanosuchus, and both extant species of dwarf caiman Paleosuchus. Suchus is Latin for crocodile, and originates from the Greek word for the ancient Egyptian god Sobek. Sobek was heavily associated with crocodiles, and often depicted as one or as a human with a crocodile head. The pseudosuchian Sobecus and the larger clade Sobecidae also derive their names from Sobek. They belong to the even larger clade Sobecosuchia, which basically means either crocodile or Sobek. The paleontologist who named Sobecosuchia, Dr. George Gaylord Simpson, might have intended for this to be a
Gaylord.
joke. Although not used as commonly as Suchus, Champsa, the Greek word for crocodile, is also used in the names of many prehistoric crocodilomorphs. So far, no paleontologists have given in to the temptation to follow in the footsteps of Dr. George Gaylord Simpson and named a new species of pseudosuchian Suchochampsa or Champsasuchus. Of course, there are a number of pseudosuchians whose name ends in saurus, including the dinosaur-like Poposaurus and even the extinct giant caiman Purusaurus. The name of the large predator Saurosuchus even combines the two. Pseudosuchians also do not have a monopoly on Champsa or Suchus, and the latter is even used in the name of the bizarre stem mammal Estemenosuchus. In addition to their scientific names, some extinct pseudosuchians have nicknames, such as Simosuchus, the pug croc, Sarcosuchus, the super croc, and Arariposuchus ratoides, the rat croc. This trend was started by paleontologist Dr. Paul Sereno, who helped discover a number of new and extraordinary extinct crocodilomorphs in North Africa. Fossils of the first pseudosuchians, such as the sail-backed Tenosauriscus, first appear about 247 million years ago, which was during the end of the early Triassic, and 5 million years after the Permian mass extinction allowed for the rise of the Archosauromorphs. The stem crocodilians steadily became more abundant and diverse until they were the most common large to medium-sized fauna by the late Triassic, which actually began 237 million years ago before even a third of the period had transpired. Still, although this was the Pseudosuchian Golden Age, they had less of a monopoly on large body size than the later dinosaurs and mammals would. The stem crocodilians coexisted with a menagerie of basal archosauromorphs, proto-mammals, and eventually the first dinosaurs.
Pretty sure
The
that was a war
Pseudosuchian
crime,
Golden
yo.
Age owed its existence to the mass extinction at the close of the Permian period, but it was cut short by another mass extinction 50 million years later at the end of the Triassic period. The only survivors were small crocodilomorphs who soon found the new Jurassic ecosystems were already dominated by a number of much larger dinosaurian survivors. It was during the Jurassic period that some of these crocodilomorphs became amphibious, and by its end, many of these Neosuchians already closely resembled modern crocodilians. However, the crocodilian crown group would not evolve until the late Cretaceous. The more basal, land-loving crocodilomorphs were not just a stepping stone towards crocodilians, and they remained common throughout most of the world for the remainder of the Mesozoic era. A particularly successful clade, Notosuchia, even managed to replace many of the smaller dinosaurs and the largest mammals in the southern continents. The end of the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago was host to yet another mass extinction, and the majority of Crocodilomorpha's diversity perished, alongside the non-avian dinosaurs and countless other clades. The surviving crocodilomorphs were primarily amphibious Neosuchians. It was once thought that most of their survivors were true crocodilians, but more recent discoveries have found that other Neosuchian clades were alive and well during the first half of the Cenozoic era. Additionally, a few predatory Notosuchians also survived to terrorize the now dominant mammals, and some crocodilians left the water to join them. Pseudosuchian diversity crashed yet again when global temperatures fell during the Eocene epoch. The rise of humanity has also taken its toll, with less than 30 species of crocodilians surviving to the modern day, many of which are endangered. Much like the dinosaurs, the Pseudosuchians once occupied a variety of ecological roles. However, even those of the modern species are more diverse than most people realize. For starters, they don't even fill the same niche throughout their lifespan. While most people are familiar with them as large semi-aquatic ambush predators, crocodilian hatchlings are instead insectivores. This echoes the diets of their distant, more active terrestrial ancestors. Their diets continue to shift as they grow, and smaller species like the Yacare caiman never make it to the top of the food chain. There is also substantial variation between the diets of the different species. The broad-snouted caiman focuses on hard-shelled prey. Species with long, narrow snouts like the slender-snouted crocodiles and the false gharial Tomastoma are primarily piscivores, fish-eaters, but they also sometimes hunt medium-sized animals. The true gharial is an even more specialized piscivore. The species of dwarf caimans and crocodiles rarely grow more than 2 meters long, and they tend to hunt nocturnally on land. There is even a distinct population of nearly blind dwarf crocodiles which inhabit caves. The Cuban crocodile is the most terrestrially adapted of any modern crocodilian. It was once the apex predator of prehistoric Cuba, both on land and water, before the arrival of humans caused the extinction of the rest of the island's large terrestrial fauna. With all of this in mind, the differences between modern crocodilians still pale in comparison to the variation exhibited by Pseudosuchia as a whole. Crocodilian teeth are fairly straight and conical. This shape is ideal for holding on to struggling prey, such as slippery fish or large mammals, as they drag them into the water to drown. Similar teeth were common among other aquatic Neosuchians, but the teeth of Pseudosuchians who hunted on land were typically zyphodont. These are the same type of teeth found in Komodo dragons and most of the carnivorous dinosaurs. They are recurved, serrated, and laterally compressed, which makes them very well suited to slice through flesh. Zyphodont teeth were present in many Triassic Pseudosuchians and independently re-evolved in a number of later terrestrial crocodilomorphs. They were important since most Pseudosuchians could not chew their food, and the terrestrial forms were incapable of executing the death roll crocodilians used to tear apart large food items. Other Pseudosuchians had different types of teeth. For instance, some semi-aquatic species had short globular teeth, which were used to crush hard-shelled prey like mollusks. Among the land crocs, the teeth of the large predatory Sebecosuchian Rhasenandrogobe were not compressed, but instead unusually wide. Their shape is similar to those of the later Tyrannosauric dinosaurs, And
Pickle
like
steak.
them, Rezan androgobe
What
is
up?
thought to have been
What are
a
you doing?
specialized bone
Are you
crusher.
doing anything?
Another example of a pseudosuchian with dinosaur-like teeth was the Triassic
doing?
Revueltosaurus, whose
Why are
leaf-shaped
you doing
teeth
it?
closely resembled those of
What is
ornithischian
it
dinosaurs.
that you were doing?
Indeed, before complete skeletons were found, Revueltosaurus had been misclassified as an early ornithischian.
Moist.
Like them, it was a herbivore, but most other plant-eating crocs did not share its dinosaur-like dentition. For example, those of the blunt-snouted crocodilomorph Simosuchus were shaped more like maple leaves. Others were analogs to a very different set of animals. Reptilian teeth are usually quite simple, and while those of crocodilians may vary in size, the actual shape of each tooth is basically identical.
What the hell you was asking for a
In
second.
stark
That's all
defiance
you
of
got.
this norm, many herbivorous and omnivorous
You had me,
crocodilomorphs evolved complex and highly
see.
differentiated teeth analogous to the incisors, canines, premolars, and molars of mammals. Like them, they were able to chew their food, another rarity among reptiles. Most of these mammal-toothed crocs were terrestrial forms, which belonged to the clade Notosuchia. But the semi-aquatic Neosuchian Eharkutosuchus evolved a similarly complex and efficient set of teeth. As strange as this evolutionary path may seem, even modern crocodilians will, surprisingly enough, regularly consume fruit
Let it
in the
be
wild.
done.
On the other end of the spectrum, a few Triassic pseudosuchians didn't have teeth at all, possessing toothless beaks in their place. There are some common distinctions between the skulls of terrestrial and aquatic pseudosuchians. Crocodilians and other species which spent a lot of time in the water needed to be hydrodynamic, so their skulls tend to be very flat. Their eyes and nostrils are also usually positioned high on the skull, allowing them to see and breathe while keeping the rest of their bodies submerged. Most terrestrial pseudosuchians had
Proof you're
deeper
blue.
skulls, with orbits on the
I'm
side
not sure what
rather
you're
than the
asking
top.
for, actually. You
There
want
are
the link to get
exceptions
in?
to these
I
rules.
can do that.
For instance, the Godzilla croc Dacosaurus had a tall, dinosaur-like skull despite being fully aquatic. Likewise, although the Australian crocodilian Baru had a deep, robust skull and teeth with many similarities to Xiphidon teeth, it is still thought to have been semi-aquatic. It appears to have lived in shallow water, where drowning its victims would have been an unreliable strategy, and so evolved typically terrestrial traits as an alternative method to dispatch its prey. Another example is the boar croc Caprosuchus, which is famous for its long, tusk-like teeth. It is only known from a single skull, and paleontologists disagree whether its traits indicate a terrestrial or amphibious existence, and if so, to what extent. The skulls of many Triassic pseudosuchians resembled those of theropod dinosaurs. This was in part due to their close evolutionary relationship with each other, and many shared characteristics can be seen in close relatives of the archosaurs, such as Euparkeria. As carnivorous pseudosuchians and dinosaurs grew in size, their already similar skulls converged upon many of the same solutions to handle larger prey. Archosaurs had two unique fenestrae, openings in the skull. They are the antorbital fenestra, which is in front of the orbits, and the mandibular fenestra, which is in the lower jaw. Crocodilians have since lost their antorbital fenestra, meaning one of the last two remaining groups of archosaurs lacks one of the iconic features of the clade.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm trying to play some boating games wrong. This is Sasquatch gaming wrong, but I'm up for conversation. I tried to send Cynthia the link. I don't know if I succeeded. Now, let's be honest. Probably not. I see. Yeet. Let the intrusive thoughts win. Hey, Tiffany. What up, chickadee? How you doing? I was hoping to sneak around like, you know how I am, like a tight end. Get over here and capture this little base. But I think, I'm not certain, but I think there's a ship over there. Thought I saw it pop up a second ago. All the ships are on the map, so I guess not. Go, 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 right? Run! Wait. Hey! Flip me off. All right, so this is fixing to go really weird.
I like that. Oh,
Fantastic.
because you're doing vertical.
Right. Right. Now, also, I have no idea as to the condition of the copyright on some of the videos I have lined up over here. And it doesn't largely matter. It's just basically bright lights and flashy things for the kids.
As a dinosaur nerd early in my life, I can geek out on this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. You like this?
I could name you every dinosaur by like 4 or 5.
How many pseudosuchians can you name?
I know all of them personally.
Yeah. Did you smoke crack with them or just sell them meth?
No comment. Pseudosuchians,
The necessary.
They don't handle their things well. But the older and the more whatever pilled and the truthier and the more cynical I get, like the closer I come to approaching the what if the dinosaurs weren't real question, and I'm like trying not to go there.
Okay, so all right, let's step off the hold on. I wonder if I can do that. I can do this. I can do this. This I can do. Some of this, no. Some of this. No. Nope. I gotta do it right. Or else it doesn't count. Right? Bam. All right. Now things are gonna get weird for a second, but stick with me, folks.
It's about par for the course.
Yeah, no, I mean it is a Sasquatch stream, so there's that.
Yeah, Lou, he did leave me hanging.
Who would that?
Oh, you didn't send me a link earlier?
No, I didn't. I didn't send anyone a link. Cynthia showed up. I tried to email her a link. I may or may not have succeeded. I don't know about that. Nobody uses their freaking channel names for their emails, and so it's always like, oh, what's the email? Cootie Boy 73. I don't know.
Even I hate mine. Mine was my student ID in college. I just carried the email over, but now I hate it because it's just letters and numbers. So when I got to tell people like Tango, Foxtrot, Alpha, 5.
Do you know how to root emails?
No.
You can use any name email you want and have it come in under that email by using the base email that you want it to come to as the root for all other emails that you set up. And when you get an email from Jack Taco 77 over here, it'll show up email from whoever sent the email to Jack Taco, but it'll show up in your inbox.
We're both thinking of Jack Taco, aren't we?
I don't know, maybe not consciously. I try not to waste my time on things like that.
You're missing the finer things in life.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm perfectly willing to give him a direct, straight, dope Sasquatch chills. I'm not going to mess with him at all. I'll give it to him the whole 57 minutes. He can wax as philosophical as you like. I don't like it better, Tiffany. I'll be honest. I'm a little bit perturbed by the lack of ability to be. I don't know. I don't feel like it's as cool.
It's not as cool.
Just in general. Just on its surface, it's not as cool.
It's more cumbersome.
It doesn't have to be. If you're not trying to do too much, like I always am. I mean, to me, it's a personality trait. Doing too much.
Oh, I know. Personality shit is my nerd area.
Right. So when I'm doing too much, that just means it's like the cat's purr. It just means I'm functioning on all 8 cents.
Tinkering and living in the ether of patterns.
Sure. Okay. But I'm not one of those numerology nuts, right? I see patterns. I see those patterns too. But those patterns, they're a byproduct of mathematics. They're not real.
A lot of what those people are seeing are not patterns at all.
Okay. So in order for those patterns to be seen, you must first go and look at the values of the letters of the alphabet. And once you have those values and you transpose the values of the letters of names and words, and then you see the patterns and the mathematics behind it, that's also an imaginary pattern. It's not real. It's there because of the value you gave the letters.
And if you've ever played on a gematria calculator, you know that there's about a zillion ciphers. You can find one that fits.
Right. That's why it's funny to me when people try to apply like things like the skip code and whatnot to Bible entries and whatnot, and they swear they've come up with something. I kind of feel like those programs might have worked backwards from the text itself to find associated phrases and meanings first, because these people were looking for a code and go figure they found one.
Right. And I'm not saying, like, I do believe there is something to gematria, but I think that it's a really if I were evil overlord,
what is
I would want people to engage gematria and like the sand things, right? Like how sand makes different patterns. If it's vibrant, put a plate of sand on the speaker and let it.
Yeah. But what does that have to do? What is this word that you said? Gematria. But I'm serious, dude. I don't think I've ever heard that one. What,
you don't know gematria?
Not. I may have seen it written down, but
it's GEMATRIA, and it is Hebrew numerology. It's Jewish numerology,
right? It's that Kabbalah system. Yeah, okay.
Right.
I've seen it written down. Right. Team Edward, you sparkle simp. This dude would rather have him a sparkly vampire in the sun than a piece of man meat like Jacob.
Wait, what? How did we get to man meat?
This is a Toe for Life. He's a sparkle simp. When I first started my
I don't know what that is.
I'm getting there, dude. There's lore here.
Okay.
I sat through your lore, sit through my lore for a second.
I got you.
First started my live streams. I had a bunch of crap behind me as a set. It was mostly just little Japanese whatnots and doohickeys and thingies and figurines and nutcrackers. And I'd change it every week just because, I had a bunch of crap that I could show people. Box, stuff like that. And I didn't have a green screen. And at some point, I can't remember when it happened, I got a standee from the movie Twilight Breaking Dawn. And it was the full cast stood up on a chocolate covered background, and when I put that behind, when the light reflected off of it, it did something amazing with the camera. I can't explain it. It was just something about that mix of colors and the reflection of the light. It just made everything give it a chocolatey smoothness, like a 1980s late night moonlighting episode, if you get what I'm saying. Anyway, one night he comes in and is like, Team Edward. I didn't have any idea what he was talking about, man. I didn't realize that the thing had slipped down enough so that you could tell it was a standee from Breaking Dawn, Breaking Moon, whatever. I never watched any of them damn things.
Don't lie.
But when he's like,
we have the box set.
I do, but I also have like every other movie made before 1985. I mean, like 2007 or whenever that place closed. 2009, I can't remember. Anyway, so he comes in going, Team Edward, I have no idea what he's talking about. For a solid 30 minutes, he screws with me about it. He did it good. He did it well. He kept poking the same thing, and I kept looking around like a freaking madman. I'd turn to look at that thing. In my head, I was seeing it where it was supposed to be and not where it was. It had slipped down. You know what I mean? So when I'd look back at it, it's always there with all the people, but I had it set up so that you couldn't tell what it was, right? And it had slipped down a little bit. Suddenly I had like Jacob and Edward and Wonder Chick all staring over my shoulder over here, and I didn't realize it. And then suddenly it hits me like a ton of bricks. Yeah, New Moon, that's the one. New Moon. My daughters stole the standee from the movie place.
Good for her.
It was both of them. One of them.
Good for her.
One of them went over and was talking smack to the guy that was supposed to be keeping people from doing that, while the other one folded it up and left. It was a straight con job, and I'll never forget it because we were leaving, and they were like, "Oh, we forgot something." And they went over, like they were going to the bathroom, and I went on out to the car, and they came out with it and set it down, and I sat there and watched the whole thing. They talked for a second, then they split up, and then when I went and talked to that guy, she just folded it up, walked out.
I had to tell my daughter about 6 months ago that if I find one more road barricade in her room, she's going to have to go take it back to the construction crew and ask them where they want it.
I would stop. I'm a stupid person. I would stop and pick up those little non-volt blinky lights that are on top of things, but I wouldn't steal them off of them. I'd wait until I found one that had been hit and knocked off of the little barricade, right? And I must have had 24 of those things sitting in my room blinking at one point.
Dude, we went through a big, like, this was high school long flag stealing challenge. You know, the front porch flags.
You're not in Georgia, are you?
No, we're not. But you know what? Missouri is close enough that it gets wild sometimes.
I'll buy that, but I mean,
we're not in Georgia. Very rarely did we encounter actual violence. Occasionally we did. And it was always the Irish flags too.
We did a ding dong ditch one time, and freaking Joey knocked himself out. he ran into a low hanging branch and just flipped over backwards, and we didn't notice it until we were like sketching it down the road a ways. We look back and Joey's just snoozing. He's just sleeping. He's napping.
Leave him there.
Oh yeah, no, we don't go back from it. I'm sorry, but if you fall behind, you're left behind. That's the code.
That is the code.
Brandon Mitchell, what's up, bud? Getting it on.
What happened there?
I'm at the very end of this vape. I've got a brand new one over here, and I'm gonna bust out here in a little bit, but yeah.
Vaping. The thing about vapes is that people who vape never stop vaping. Like, I sit here and I smoke cigarette after cigarette, but there's an end to that, right? And when I'm not streaming in normal life, there's an end to that activity, and then I start doing other things.
Right.
With vape, there's no end to that. Those motherfuckers just sit there and
all right, so I'm a very I mean, you might find this hard to believe though, Flow State. I'm a very nervous person in public, and it comes out as this weird jokey thing that you see me do. I've become quite comfortable doing this, but in public I'm not. And so that nervousness comes out in these weird, quirky, just really weird thought associations that most people don't come up with, and make people stand around wondering what I'm talking about until like a week later when they're like, ah, shit, Robert Service, right? Because I don't know. I'm an idiot, I guess, I suppose.
You're that special kind of you were there on the panel the other night when somebody's like, oh yeah, talking about sitting in the car waiting to go in the store because there's people there.
Yeah, I do that. I'm
the opposite. I'm like, God damn, I just took this whole car ride alone. I need some fucking attention. Where are these people at?
I dig it. Oh, I had an experience today that was quite, I guess you could call it validating, I suppose. I was standing in line at the Embark and get me some smokes, and good night, Swiss Miss. I appreciate you coming by.
Good night, Swiss Miss.
And I get up to the counter, and the chick behind the counter is like, hello, Ling Ling. Welcome in.
Ling Ling
looks at me. She goes, you have amazing hair. I said, thank you, ma'am. I do the whole money and everything. And she's like, you look really familiar. Where do I know you from? I was like, I lived here my whole life. She said, I haven't. I just moved here a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, do you watch YouTube? She's like, Yeah, mostly shorts. I do shorts. She's like, really? What's your
What are the humans doing?
it didn't cross my mind. I didn't think about it. I was back in my car trying to go and get lunch for everybody. You know what I'm saying? In my head, I was not there. I was not present.
Right.
Because I'm an idiot. I'm a moron, right? Anyway, we sat there and talked. I told her who it was. She's like, oh, I'm already subscribed. And I was like, cool. Appreciate it. And I went out, got in the car and threw it in gear, backed out, and almost ran over somebody because it occurred to me that chick was hitting on me. I am certain. I turned bright red when she said she recognized me. I turned redder than the smoke behind me.
You shy guy.
You know,
gas station attendants might be a step up from the Waffle House waitresses. Depends on the Waffle House, I suppose.
What? Yes, you want a coffee, don't you, Flesh Steak? I want a coffee. Yes, that would be 2 coffees, please.
2 coffees.
I'll take mine iced.
Yeah, no, he doesn't get any coffee. He's a fucking fiend.
Oh, black?
No, iced. What, I got to drink this coffee hot?
No, I don't.
Those guys, fuck you, dude.
My banker years are behind me. I'm done with mugs of lukewarm drinks sitting around in the microwave.
I don't do that. No, sir. No, sir. I have a Keurig. I have fresh coffee every time.
Iced coffee is delicious. I don't give a fuck what you say. So are pina coladas and strawberry daiquiris.
Hey,
Some
pina
things,
coladas and strawberry daiquiri are a staple. You can't live without them.
but iced coffee is delicious too. It's just overpriced. That's why
I have
you
a
ask
caveat.
for iced coffee with no ice.
I have another caveat to the strawberry daiquiri. Real strawberry daiquiris are
Of course.
great. The artificial strawberry daiquiris have so much red 40 in them that I look at them and my lips break out. I walk away from them when I'm going through a grocery store. You know, they've got those already mixed daiquiris. I just go around.
Isn't the red or the strawberry artificial flavoring made out of like skunk sweat glands or something?
It's derived from the vanillin gland in the beaver.
The melanin gland?
Vanillin. We get the word vanilla from the gland from the beaver.
Did you know that all the other parts of the vanilla plant besides the bean are poisonous?
Yeah. Which really begs the question of who is that asshole sitting around who went, oh, no, dude, if you grind it up and put a little bit in your coffee, it's great.
I still want to figure out who the first person was to eat an egg. Like, fuck that.
Okay, hold
you
on.
You gotta be hungry to watch a chicken poop out this thing.
No.
You know what? I want to slurp down that liquid.
You got it all wrong. It wasn't a chicken. I guarantee you it was some kind of lizard or a snake, and they found them buried somewhere, maybe an alligator or something, and later encountered the chicken and went, hey, that's kind of like those lizard eggs we eat. I think it was around.
I gotta pause you and just I don't know if this is a regular viewer, but you just had the best YouTube handle I've seen in a long time.
Jizzing Falcon. That is a participation trophy if I've ever seen. Congratulations, sir. You got the only trophy of the night. Much respect. Thank you for calling that one out. Yeah, no.
Now I'm overthinking it. Don't they have to do something weird to falcons to get them to mate? I know that you know the answer to this.
I don't. I never got into falcons, man. It was kestrel.
I think they have to milk them or something. Oh my god! Hold on. No, you need to look this shit up. You know what? I'm gonna look it up.
Fucking now, dude. I can't.
I can't stay. I'm already 3 minutes late. But thank you for having me up. We'll talk about it.
Appreciate you for coming by. See if we can find out about some freaking falcon jizzing. I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think? Oh hell, it's already been 2 hours. I guess gaming is a pretty good way to just bypass some time. I wasn't actually planning on doing this for more than 2 hours. Whose job is that, right? Like, who is it over there jerking off falcons is my question. And how did they get like that job? Like, how did that happen? My question. I just don't understand. Are we leaving? Is everybody going? Everybody just dumped out real quick. That seems like a pretty good way to go about doing this. Let's see. I've got some toys over here I could use for it. We're going to do this one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. It's been fun. It hasn't been real fun, but it's still part of the method. You got to figure out where everything goes in this. But until next time, remember, game wrong. It's always more fun.
3, 2, 1.
And here we go. On my own, here we go.
If you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.
The communists declared that the real differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric.
It's MAGA country.
This is no hoax, ladies and gentlemen. I urge you to run for your lives while you can. We're not making this up just so we can take over the world.
The old dinosaur media isn't dying, it's dead. We are the new media.